with the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible. We called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seabird.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. Hey, this is a place where we as combat vets get to kind of talk about our stories, how we saw them, how we visualize them, how we live them, and how we're doing in our lives and society now. It's also a place for our sponsors, supporters, volunteers to come on and tell why they're doing what they're doing. And right now I have a really cool guest on today, NFL player Ricky Ortiz. Started off with the Baltimore Ravens, went to the Falcons, and finished his career out right now with the New Orleans Saints. He's actually running a really cool program. We're going to talk about that program. Dynamic fitness. I had a chance to get into the gym and go through some of these processes, and it's not just a gym. To me, it really has this physical therapy / gym piece to it that really adds to the ability for me as an injured combat vet to really kind of isolate some of the body parts that I'm not really focused on so much. And Ricky Ortiz being a trainer and making this happen, and wrote down kind of a program that, you know, you get out. I've been working out my whole life, but you know, to get into somebody else's routine or workout that specializes in injuries, I think that is even more of a spectacular piece. So, hey, Ricky Ortiz, thanks a lot for being with me today, man. It's great to have you on the show. He is at right now. He's at Dynamic Fitness. This is what he does all day long. Hangs out and trains some amazing athletes. It's not just us veterans. Yeah. So
yes,
Ricky,
I do.
hey, talk about your story a little bit, man. Tell us, you know, where you started, what was your inspiration in life, and some other cool things about how you went with your journey.
Oh man, yeah, I can talk about that for hours. Hopefully, I can squeeze that in within the next 45 minutes or so. So I grew up in Corona, California. You know, right down the road from where this gym is actually located. And I went to school at Mater Dei. Ended up playing in Orange County at Mater Dei High School. Then walked on to Oregon State, and then after that, earning my scholarship as a sophomore, I was then I entered the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens. I ended up starting for them my rookie season, tore my MCL, so then had to hang up the cleats for that year, or at least get to the latter part of the year. Then went to basically it's a spring ball, but it's called OTAs. Off-season training activities with the Ravens. Ended up being cut the year Lamar Jackson got there, and sat at my home for a couple weeks and got a call from both Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. Ended up going to a first workout with the Atlanta Falcons, having a tremendous workout. They ended up signing me that day. Played a couple seasons for them. Ended up getting hurt. Had a neck injury, high ankle sprain that led me to, again, hanging up the cleats for another 10 weeks or so. And then I came back and ended up finishing out the year with the Saints. And I got, which was really cool because I hadn't played 3 months or so. And then I got to play, and then ended up going to the playoffs and starting for them. So, yeah. So as far as my story goes, that's the athletic career. And as far as my background in education, I decided to get a ag science degree at Oregon State. Also had minor in leadership, and was around a bunch of fantastic strength coaches, such as Evan Simon. Brian Miller at the time was there. Ended up going to the, I believe it was the Navy Academy. So, which is kind of cool because I ended up meeting up with him after, when I was in my NFL career, at the Baltimore Ravens. And then Steve Saunders at the Ravens was there at the time, and just a conglomeration of great strength coaches that I was around, that I was able to pick their brain. Kind of fall in love with training, right, itself, but more the why behind it. And I think for me and myself and my career, I didn't think I would only be doing this. And as an entrepreneur, I'm not, right? And that's why the ag science comes into play, in the sense of I was planning on importing avocado and getting it from Mexico, from Jalisco to America one day, right? And that was my main goal. But the after football came sooner than I had thought it would. Uh, Actually, at the gym that my wife trained at when she was 12 years old, a gym that's grown over the years, a gym that's been growing for about, I don't know, since I believe they started in 2010 or 2012. My years might be off, but I ended up training here when I was in the NFL. She was here when she was young, and so anyways, that's kind of what brought me back here. She's from this area. We met at Oregon State. She played volleyball, so when we came back here after my career ended, just trying to figure out kind of what I wanted to do. I ended up at this awesome gym. Honestly, it started by both Kevin Duenas and Brian Richardson, who teaches at the college nearby, and he's a kinesiologist. And just when I was training here, and all the correctives that I received, right, because I was in tune with my body as any. I mean, I always wanted to know more. And as a professional athlete, I feel like any little thing that you can fix to help you, right, to be in a better position on the football field, to make more plays, right, is what I was aiming for. And so when I came in here, I got the same treatment that you got. I got the whole orthopedic evaluation done, and then I got into my correctives more than anything, which was an awesome experience. And as you know, learning more about your body is just something that we all just kind of go through life, and it's just a big curve that we try to get a hold of. But at the end of the day, you'll always, if you're in training, you're always going to realize that there's always something that you can do better, and that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, definitely. I know, and coming in there, I got a chance to meet you and go through these processes. It's not just you, but Brian and Kevin were there. They started this gym. They did a really good job. Everyone's there to help, and you're not just training. And this program, this Heroes program, is done by the Wounded Warrior Project. Thanks for their funding for this. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So honestly, when I came in about a year and a half ago, it was something that that had already been kind of set in place in 2019, and we got away from it a little bit, and by that I mean, because this movement funds the vets, right? We got away from it in the sense of we didn't work with them for about 3 years or 2 years because of COVID, but we still decided to run the program anyways, and which was awesome because as you know, we do a full orthopedic evaluation, right? And we do both static and dynamic postural assessment, right? So that we can gather, right, this objective and both subjective information, so that when we build your plan, you can be honestly, it can be tailored to what you need, right? Because I feel like a lot of the time, at least as trainers, and from what I hear, is that we get too caught up in just trying to make everybody happy and make the client happy. But at the end of the day, if you want to see results, you gotta we stick to the science is at the end of the day. So that's kind of where we lie here. And in terms of the Heroes movement, it's been a blessing because we got to revamp it this past year, and I think right now we have about, I don't know, 45 veterans now on the Heroes, doing the Heroes movement, and this is a free movement for all veterans. And really, it's a deserving movement for all veterans, because I think that it needs to be shedded light on, because a lot of people don't know, at least the veterans that I talk about, a lot of people don't know that this movement exists. So if you don't, and you're hearing this right now, I suggest that you get yourself into dynamic fitness. It's in Marietta, California, and you get either a hold of me, Kevin, or Brian, and get yourself in for an evaluation so that you can get started and really start fine tuning and getting the body exactly where it needs to be so that you feel the best that you possibly can be. So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and Aaron kind of went through the whole evaluation, but I think that at the end of the day, it's a benefit that you all deserve, and if you do come in, you'll learn a lot more about yourself. So
Yeah, I will add, William Frazier brought me in, but William Frazier is also a guy from Warrior Built Foundation, and Warrior Built Foundation put the word out, that our veterans can utilize this facility and do this. And obviously that's a handful of combat vets. These guys are all guys that have seen combat, pulled the trigger, or been shot at before. Then also the PTSD Foundation of America,
yeah,
Southern California chapter being there. This gym's for all veterans. But what's cool about it is, like, I know, and Ricky will talk about this. I'm gonna throw him under the bus a little bit. But I was on the floor. I was doing this thing called the ab coach, which is really kind of cool because my abdominal muscles are really jacked up from the shrapnel, and they had to cut me open. And I told him, hey, I don't really do crunches because they cramp all the time. But so he had me doing this ab coach thing, which is kind of like a blood pressure cuff under your stomach, and you just hold it in a position, and then you push your abs out and in, and it really kind of isolates the movements. And then I was getting up off the floor, and Ricky stuck his hand out to me, and I grabbed it. And talk a little bit about what we talked about with that, and why it's such a cool dynamic, because a lot of veterans don't want help. But talk a little bit about that, Ricky.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I don't know. I think we spoke on it a little bit, but Aaron, I offered you my hand, and I told him after he actually accepted my, the help of, you don't know. I told him, you don't know how many times that hand has been denied, uh, because they didn't want, and they didn't want help up. And Aaron spoke on something, and it was a great way of putting it. And you said the word camaraderie. Um, and I'll let you kind of go into that, because that's something that you guys talk about a lot in the military, right?
Well, it's awesome that you remember that, and you said, hey, the camaraderie piece, because that's something I talk about all the time. That's obviously comes from me a lot. I'm like, hey, people don't want help anymore, but they do want camaraderie. They're trying to figure out what that means. Whether it's at church camaraderie, whether it's camaraderie in an event, a sport. And you guys don't just train, all of this, we talk about camaraderie, but you're training full on football teams, basketball teams that come in from high schools around the area, middle age schools, these other programs. There's a lot more programs that are going on here than just the veteran piece. But that camaraderie, I didn't look at his hand like help. I looked at it like, hey, that's camaraderie. Thanks for even, sharing that. I will grab that hand and come up off the floor with that support, because that's another added piece of support. And to hear him, he goes, man, you know how many times that's been denied? And I kind of chuckled about it, because I could just feel it inside. Like, yeah, because veterans aren't used to asking for help. They don't want help. They want to help. They want to help somebody else. But I talked to Ricky too about, you know, my ability to work out. Like I said, sometimes I'm not doing myself any favors by doing my workouts. Like, hey, I need to, support my other ankle. I really don't do isolated left right body movements. And Ricky's like, no, we need to do that so the stabilization muscles can really take effect and start giving you more mobility, because my other leg compensates for my bad ankle so much that my mobility is messed up. And I want to say, after 2 workouts, I was feeling much more mobility and just functional, and that's one of the 3 goals I wrote down: functionality, strength, and mobility. Those things are super important. And the program that was written, there's not much weights involved. I think the most weight I worked out was the 2.5 pounds, holding these weights and just going with the V, you know, isolation. But it's all straps and floor movements and And I really had, it's muscles that you normally use, but you don't use the outer side of those muscles, or you really need to get into some of the more stabilization sides of things. So, and when all this came about, I was just like, wow, this gym is super impressive, not because it's a gym, but because it's also got this personality to it. It's also got, the camaraderie, and most of all, it's got a different program that you might not be used to, but taking into consideration everything that you bring to the table. But like Ricky said, at the end of the day, you need to push yourself a little bit, but it's not about pushing yourself. It's about accomplishing the mission for the injured people, but it's also about, really getting into it and staying with it. And this is all stuff I can take home with me. This is all stuff, if I'm not at the gym, it's something that carries over. So there's some really incredible things going on, and you can elaborate on
Yeah.
any of that, Ricky, and especially
Yeah,
the other
no,
teams,
well,
the other things that you're training.
well, yeah. Well, first of all, what you call camaraderie in football, to me, that's brotherhood, right? And that's what. But at the gym itself, I think of even community, and I think that I just wanted to elaborate on that because that's so important. Is like when you build a community in a gym, such as that dynamic fitness, right? People want to show up. People want to work out. People want to do everything that you're saying, and they're very attentive to it. And not only that, they're pushed by the people around them, right? There's like, and like you'll see professional football players, you'll see veterans, you'll see kids as young as 9 years old, right, doing the thing. And I think that that's so important, is that you actually have a community, right? And with camaraderie, to me it's similar, right, in the sense that it build upon it, right, but it's something that's long lasting when I think camaraderie, right? And if you come to dynamic fitness, that's our hope, is that it's long lasting, it's not short-winded, right? We want you to be here for a while, we want you to experience the adaptations, right, that we impose into your specified individualized programming, right? And I think it starts with that, right? Within it, I think in any line of business, if you build community, right, people will come, they'll enjoy, and they'll want more. So I think that that's why it's so important to do that and to build that, and to offer the hand, right, to show, right, that you're there, not. And at the end of the day, I tell this to everybody, is like, whether I'm here in the next 3 years or not, I will be, I'll still be present in your life. I'll answer questions. I extend my phone number, right? I want you guys to actually, because I want it, all you're doing for me is making me a better trainer by asking me more questions, right? Because if I don't know, I'll figure it out, and I'll go back to my peer review based articles and case studies, and I'll find out for you, right? Come here, ask questions, be educated, and then take it into the rest of your life. If you don't end up living in Marietta, California your whole life, I'm completely fine with that. As long as you take some sort of thing from this gym, right, and apply it later, right? That's wisdom, right? And I think people, love the idea of knowledge, love the stimulation of learning, right, and knowledge, but the application is so important. So I want people with their program is know what to do. I don't want to be walking you through it all the time. I will be watching you, and as I walk by, but I want you to take ownership, and I want it to become a sort of an integrity when you're at the gym. And all that does, like, at the end of the day, is create accountable gym goers who are there to hold each other accountable, or there to build a community, right? And at the end of the day, all like, it's funny to say, but just love on each other, because that's what's so important. That's what builds community, right? That's what builds camaraderie. That's what shows people that you care. And yeah, just trying to elaborate a little bit more on that, because I think it goes hand in hand with so many different lines of professions. Wanted to elaborate on that. And as far as what Aaron talked about, the individualized programming, right? Stabilization, right? It's all science based. It's case study proven, right? Like, it's not magic. There's no magic sauce, right, that we just sprinkle on there, and like all of a sudden you're just this ginormous person. You're so strong. It's like, no, just follow the right sequencing, follow the right, progressions of training, and you'll get there. right? Like stabilization is phase one and it's skipped over by so many different people because it's not exciting, right? But at the end of the day, you don't need what's exciting. You need what you need, what your body needs, right? And so what he's doing, right, is something that we do, and it's normal, right? We do. It seems kind of, obviously it's new to everybody, but it should be a staple of every gym goer and how they approach their workouts. You should prep the body, right? You should foam roll, right? He's talking about shorter and longer muscles, right? We need to foam roll the shorter muscles. We need to strengthen the longer muscles. Plain and simple. That's what affects movement patterns, right? At the end of the day, when he did his overhead squat, he talks about how he favored one side, right? That's what you call a hip shed, right? It's a subjective piece of information that, if measured, right, could be objective, right, if we actually put the time in as trainers to do it. And I think that that's so important, is that we be objective with what we do. And that's what I was taught when under Kevin Duenas and Brian Richardson. Is like, it's great that you could be subjective and just look at it, but you won't be like let the numbers tell you the truth, right? Because the numbers don't lie. And at the end of the day, you come in, you get your stabilization workout. Phase one, we do 6-week program. I've had professional football players too do the same thing, right? So just because you're not doing anything new, you're doing what is a staple of the gym, and that's starting in phase one, right? And so I want to make that known, is that it's normal to foam roll, it's normal to stretch, and it's normal to activate and warm up prior to your exercise. And that should take you about 25 minutes, right? The exercise itself can be undulated in the sense of or not undulated, but the acute variables as far as sets go in phase one, 1 to 3 sets, could be 1 set for that day if it meets your time allotment, right, for how long you have in the gym. So there's always ways we can play with it, right? And I think at the end of the day is that the body needs to be prepped, right? We need to get it ready, like, for the actual work to be done. And I think that goes for everything in life too. I think it is so applicable for everything in life. Preparing to fail is failing to prepare. I don't know how many times I've heard that from my history teacher in high school, but it's something that stuck with me. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. I look back and I'm like, man, that was the darnest piece of information I've probably ever heard. And it's so practical, right? It's like, sometimes like you can take these really complicated subjects and you can make them pretty practical so that people could understand and be like, and they have aha moments, right? And be like, oh, that's why we're doing this. It's like, you don't need to be a geek or something. I don't need to speak all this science to you. I know it's there. And if you want to see it, I'll show you. But I'm going to say it in a way that you can understand it, in a way that you understand it, so that hopefully later on down life, and I spoke about taking it down the road, you're able to take it down the road. You're able to teach your kids one day. If you haven't had kids already, of course, you're able to just throw it on to the next generation, because I believe that's important. It's like, build this community, right? Teach what needs to be taught, and then hopefully the next generation takes the information and utilizes it. And that's what wisdom is, fella. That's what wisdom is.
No, that's good stuff, Ricky. And I want to just say, when you think about a gym, most of the time you think about going in and just start working out yourself and doing this thing. But these guys, these trainers are walking around, Ricky, Brian, Kevin, and there's some others that are in there also, but they're walking around. They're just there, to answer any of your questions. There's a lot of more open space. There's a lot of TRX workouts. There's the bands and the stretches, the stretching bands and the cross bands across your thighs. But the rollers too. The rollers are so important. And I have a roller. I don't use it nearly as much as I will now, because I realized, like, even sleeping was better for me, Ricky, just because you put that roller on that hip, start beating it to death. And it's kind of a rough ride, but I could tell where it's super necessary, because it needs to be stretched out, it needs to be hit. And then right behind the armpit towards the back and the scapula area, and hitting those erector muscles. that's another place that you don't really focus that much. But I notice, like, when I sleep now, I can sleep on my side better. There was just some really incredible things, and it was like, hey, I could come in there and be like I was telling you, I work out all the time. I know how to work out, but to do
Yeah, and
what
I've heard
you
that so many
taught,
times.
but to
Yeah,
do what you
I've heard
taught
that
and
so many times. But
and take your hand was super awesome.
yeah, and that's honestly the foam roll and the stretching is all homework that you should apply at home as well, right? Like you should be doing like that's something that you can do that's easy enough. You can do before bedtime. You can make a routine in your life to where I mean, all it's going to do is help you, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's as simple as doing the postural assessments that we need to do, that we know which muscles to foam roll and which muscles to stretch, right? And typically, what that does is it doesn't, and people expect these adaptations to happen overnight, right? And I got to feel this way. And it's like you realize how many years like that your adaptations have set, right? And then where you hip shift to the left, right? Like, or your shoulders are falling forward, right? Or you don't have any arm bend when you go down, like, or when one of your foot's externally rotated, right? Or maybe a little bit of pronation involved in the left leg, or I mean, in the left foot, right? Like with some knee valgus. I mean, there's tons of things that we evaluate upon assessment, but I think that at the end of the day, it's like if you just stick to your foam rolling and you make it as essential as you do, maybe I don't know that 2 o'clock snack that you make essential every day, right? You'll see changes in your life, and like I said, there's no magic sauce behind it. We're sticking to the acute variables, right? And we're sticking to just science. It's nothing crazy. It's super practical. I want you guys to, feel comfortable when you come here. And my best way to do that is to explain why I do. And for the most part, all of us will explain exactly why we're doing things. And I think that's what's so cool about it is like upon assessment is that you get these responses like, oh, you actually are super tight, right? I couldn't tell that. Like, right? Like I've had someone not be able to touch their toes, and then I do a measurement, I do a bicep femoris measurement, like, or I see how I see knee extension, and it shows like, oh, they're within range, like they're 160, 180, like, and it's like, oh, okay, so what that means, is maybe their flexibility, right? Their static stretching, they're not as they're not as flexible on, but their mobility, right, their dynamic stretching, right, is flexible. Like they're able to move their leg, which is great. Usually I would think that you would have some sort of flexibility when your mobility is pretty good through bicep femoris, but not everybody's the same. There's not one way for each individual when they come in. You might have somebody who can do something and has all the same issues that another person has, right? And they can do something, and it doesn't make any sense why they can do it, but they can do it, right? And so it's like, okay, I was like, okay, well, you can do it, right? But that other person can't do it. Well, I can't say, well, you got to be able to do it. The other person, you can't do it because that person did it. It's like, no, everybody's different. Everybody has, their different movement patterns that kind of can be examined and thoroughly looked at, but they might not be able to do something that other person can, right? And they might have the same exact measurements, and it just doesn't make sense. And that's why it's so cool, and that's why I love it, is because you might have that situation like, okay, well, this forces me to be creative and forces me to do my job, right? Like, do your job, figure it out. And I like to call it evolve, right? Evolve is a programmer, evolve as a trainer, like a strength coach, whatever you want to be presented as, right? And figure it out. And then, try to make that person better than what they were before. And that if you do that, if you come in with that mindset that there's tons of curveballs that be thrown, right? Then you'll be fine. That's how you got to approach everything in life. I believe at least.
No, that's good stuff, Ricky. Thanks for sharing all this incredible stuff. And again, I want to just say Dynamic Fitness, this program, the Hero Program, is funded by woundedwarriorproject.org. Ricky Ortiz, Kevin, and Brian do an amazing job over there to create this ability for us as veterans to take advantage of this program. And I would say, Temecula is I think it's about the 5th largest veteran retirement community in the United States, maybe 6th, but it's got its veteran community. So if you're in that area, not to mention, our combat vets, it's super going to be important for you to get in there and actually just get some. And the accountability
right
piece,
off the 15 in French Valley Parkway.
Yeah, Ricky, give your last words. If people want to get a hold of you, feel free to give that out. But you can get a hold of Ricky through me, so feel free to hit me up as well. So go ahead, Ricky.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do want to get a hold of me, I think Aaron did it the easy way. I mean, he has my number. You can text me directly, or you can go on our website at Dynamic Fitness and look it up. It's Dynamic Fitness HBK, High Performance Kinesiology in Marietta, California. Easy to find, but go in there, fill out our new client or interest document, and then submit that. Put who referred you, put Aaron down, and then I'll get a hold of you. Actually, I've already gotten a response from somebody that Aaron, so that it worked out perfect. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, get a hold of Aaron, get my number, or you can go through our website.
Well, thanks a lot, Ricky. I appreciate you being here. Strength and honor, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, oh yeah. Hey, just to give a quick little report, I had Phil Scott on not too long ago, rescuing animals in Ukraine with his organization. He's basically in the Bakhmut area, doing some stuff and getting some animals out. He got about 71 animals out. So to listen to him, see what's going on, his perspective, he's worried about the area, but I understand that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But thanks. You got to check out Dynamic Fitness if you're a veteran. But more importantly, for those of us that have these physical injuries, that kind of gym is just an outstanding kind of environment where it's physical therapy and gym dynamics. So check out Dynamic Fitness. Hey, until next time, this is Aaron Siebert. I'm lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round. Thanks to my sponsors, supporters, volunteers, sitchradio.com. Thanks for putting this thing together. Warrior Built and the PTSD Foundation. I know I talk about you the most, but there's so many organizations doing some incredible things. If there's people in your life that are making a difference, I like to try to vet it out. I can't vet out everything, but I'm lucky enough to get over to Dynamic Fitness to try that out. Until next time, strength and honor. Out.